Hi, everybody. Welcome to our channel, Our Scientology Stories Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and I've got some special guests here that I'd like to introduce. First, I'd like to introduce Mitch Brisker. How you doing, Mitch?
Hey, Mark. Good to see you.
Great. And then I'll
Hello,
go ahead
everybody.
and introduce, and then I'll want to introduce Karen DeLaCarrierre. Hi, Karen.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
And then Jeffrey Augustine. How you doing, Jeff?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good, good. Can everybody hear each other?
Yes.
Fabulous, fabulous. Anyway, we're going to talk about suppressive people, suppressive person declares, and policies in the Church of Scientology. And before we get started, I just want to mention you can comment in the chat, and if I'll be watching the comments, if there's something I want to pop up, I will. Also, if you want to ask us a question, please write the word question. It makes it easier for us to spot. I can tag it, and that way we don't miss your question.
Also,
yes,
I have
Mitch.
If you wouldn't mind, folks, open up a couple of tabs and stream to my and Jeffrey. And
that's right.
Karen's
give me your channel address.
Well. That would be great. Scientology.
Give me your channel address.
Okay. Okay, I'll do it in private.
You're surviving Scientology, right?
No, I'm so Scientology Money Project.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
So anyway, yeah, so we're simulcasting on those channels anyway. So anyway, we want to welcome everybody here. But like I said, if you have a question, just ask in the chat and we will get to it. If you want a super sticker, super chat, that's always welcome. And that's it. And also, of course, subscribe to our channel too, our Scientology Stories Peeling the Onion.
Yeah,
so
this is kind of a special live stream because you usually don't get this many Gen 1 boomers hanging out together at one time. So kind of cool.
Yeah, we're all OGs, old guard.
Yeah,
Mark,
OBs,
I can't see the chat. Can you fix that, Mark?
You have to click it on your screen, and you have to go over to comments on the right. Just click on comments.
And then you'll be able to corner.
Okay, yeah. Good. So now, what's our first order of business here today? What are we talking about?
Well, I was going to say, I've got this little bullet points here, is why Scientology doesn't want you to see declares. First of all, let's just explain to everybody what it is to be called a suppressive person in Scientology. It's the Scarlet Letter of Scientology, which means basically you are an evil person. You are not to be communicated with by your family or friends who are still in Scientology. You also can be fair gamed. And you basically persona non grata as far as Scientology is concerned. And it's pretty much the heaviest thing that can happen to somebody who's in Scientology. And one thing I wanted to mention is that L. Ron Hubbard mentioned that there's 2.5%, I think, right? People who are really, truly, suppressive people or, dangerous suppressive people. Yet there's all these Scientologists who were in Scientology that have been declared. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. So anyway, we want to talk a little bit about that. Anybody else want to make a comment?
Yeah, it's interesting that L. Ron Hubbard, who claimed this was all scientific, determined somehow that 2.5% of the world's population were antisocial personalities. And I have a column on my money project at top called Scientology Genocide. L. Ron Hubbard actually said the way to handle these antisocial personalities were to dispose of them quietly without sorrow. So he actually contemplated a genocide in Science and Survival in 1952. It's kind of scary.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Suppressive person declare is just a political tool. It's just hogwash that the percentage of the population that joined Scientology, 80-90%, after serving 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, then the cult discovers, oh, this was a suppressive person. After sucking out labor at $15 a week pay, 60-hour weeks, 70-hour weeks. This is just a label. It's manufactured makeup hogwash. Or as we say in Britain, codswallop.
Exactly. Hey, one thing for all of our guests here today, if you want to say something, just stick your finger up like somebody's talking. That way I know who to go to if you've got a comment or something.
Oh, okay.
That helps.
This
No, you
finger,
did you
right?
did it right, Karen. You went like this. That was good.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead, Mitch. Did you want to say something?
No, I was just, this finger, is this the one we're looking at? This one, right?
You like.
Okay, good.
Well, I wanted to mention, one of the points here that we were going to talk about is how they really don't put out suppressive person declares anymore. They just tell people, oh, you've been declared a suppressive person, and then that's the way it is. But that's not how the policy is. They're supposed to issue it to all organizations and missions in Scientology. And I have proof of that. Yes, Mitch, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment that one of the purposes of a suppressive person declare is to make a public announcement, is
Right.
to make it publicly known so that other quote unquote, Scientologists in good standing, they don't accidentally interact with the person. So, but the social media and the internet has rendered the idea of a public announcement pretty ridiculous, because public announcement, it was meant to be a public announcement, but within the Scientology bubble. And it's really impossible to keep, it's very difficult to keep things secret these days.
Exactly. Well, back in the day when I left in September 15th, 1990, they were issuing suppressive person declares. And this is the one that I got. This one was sent to me in the mail, and it's dated October 19th, 1990. And I hadn't read it in a long time. It's only 2 pages, right? But basically it says that I was a staff member of Golden Era Productions. That actually was pretty funny to me, because I think I was in Gold working as a de-weeder for like 2 months, 8 weeks. You know what I mean? I spent the majority of my time in the Religious Technology Center. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
And,
they're not going to put RTC on a declare.
No, I understand, but I just thought it was funny. And then I
funny.
remembered that one of my high crimes, which I was supposedly a suppressive person for, was I failed to handle my memos in my in basket, dispatches. And then you can see like the third paragraph down says his production level was quite low and consisted of repeated noncompliance to legal orders issued by his seniors, which is a complete farce. When I got this, I thought it was ridiculous, right? Because I was responsible for building and doing a lot of things at the Gold base, from the audio lines to, construction on different buildings, to the meter production line, to all sorts of things. So if I'm a suppressive person and those are over products, yeah, well, you can see that it's really ridiculous. So I laughed it off when I got this.
Mark, question.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Now, on your, can you put your SP declare back up, please? Okay, I had a question about it. Now, first of all, did you say you were a de-weeder?
Yeah.
Does that mean you were just pulling weeds?
Yeah.
They can't say he was a gardener. It was like a de-weeder.
I
see de-weeder, in charge of de-weeding. But here's
I was made the de-weeder under Joe Canine, who was the former director that Mitch replaced. And the issue that was put out making me the de-weeder said that I was never to be promoted to de-weeder in charge. It's just a way of trying to humiliate people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We can't have you in charge of de-weeding. Okay, now here it says, quote of you, he, meaning you, Mark Fisher.
Yeah.
You would not apply standard admin, but would knowingly alter and carry it out. I'm sorry. It said that you were engaged in quickying post cycles by taking shortcuts instead of applying standard admin. It's funny how they want you to go now. But if you quickie it, that's a crime. It's just irrational.
Yeah.
Given that they want you to, Hubbard said speed of particle flow and everything. But if you quickie it, that's a crime. So.
Right. And then the real reason that I left was because I could see Miscavige and I could see, the craziness was starting and the abuses were starting. And he actually physically attacked me as well. So that was really the reason why I left, not because I quickied something or didn't handle my messages in my in basket.
Yeah. Quicking on the de-weeding.
Yeah. Yes, Karen.
The reason they don't do a broad dissemination and publication is, one, they are embarrassed. They are embarrassed that long respected people with longevity who serve the cult year in and year out are suddenly found to be an antisocial person. It doesn't even compute with people that know and respect. So there's embarrassment. But what they do in present time, and I've had this from various leaks, is they hide the suppressive person declare in a cabinet in HCO, which is also locked. The secrecy of it. Now, back in the day when they did publicize, they said some pretty libelous things, which lawyers, they would say, this person was a go-go dancer showing their privates and flaunting their body and prior to, and Scientology saved this person from a life of Las Vegas flaunting their blah, 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 blah. And this was all put in SB declares. They would accuse people of pedophilia. Now, they normally protect pedophiles. But once the person left, they were willing to state this with no documentation or evidence.
Right.
So there was a pendulum swing where the SB declares were beyond what should get broad publication. Then they withdrew and now hide them in a cabinet in a locked HCO. Go figure.
Yeah, and they can't. It's like you said. It's bad public relations for them to see like, oh, Mike Rinder has left. He was the international spokesperson. We just saw him at the IAS event that I just attended and paid $10,000 for. And now all of a sudden he's like the most evil person. We're going to issue a suppressive person declare. I mean, they just couldn't do that because they would people would be like, maybe I should start reading the internet and seeing what's really going on.
Well,
if I can comment on one of the things,
Go ahead,
on
Mitch.
something that Karen said about how all of a sudden you start hearing this news, these things about people, like a person, they protect pedophiles, and then the person leaves and they're like, here's a pedophile. I mean, the stories that I would hear at Gold about all of a sudden people were like, oh, they were a sex worker. Oh, one of my favorite is incest. That was one of the that was one I heard a number of times. Like, oh, well, we found out that this person had sexual relations with their father. That's why they're not here anymore. So it's just this really outrageous stuff that you hear.
Right.
Jeez.
Right. Okay. Well, I wanted to, next thing it's on the list here. I was going to ask you. It says, Jeff, you're going to tell a story about Mary Gwynn of Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, there's a famous legal case, and it's it's Gwynn versus Church of Christ, Collinsville, Oklahoma. It's on my blog. Let me see if I can get it. But basically, Church of Christ in the 1980s in Oklahoma, Marion Gwynn was a member. She was a single mother, and she had an affair
With a married male. He was married.
Yeah. Yes, he was married. And so the elders of the Church of Christ told her that she was going to have to go before the congregation and admit to having an affair, which is basically slut shaming, because if you're in the Bible Belt in the 1980s and you admit that you slept with someone, that you're going to be ostracized. You're going to lose your job, right? And she wouldn't do it. So what she did
said, no,
instead,
I'm not going to. I won't.
yeah, she's not going to go in front of the congregation and basically say, I slept with a married man. And so this gets interesting, and this is really important. She consulted an attorney because
No, wait, Jeff. They said, if you don't confess, we are going to go up on Sunday on the pulpit and we're going to tell the world what you would. They said, you won't do it? We'll do it for you. Plus, they had 3 other little satellite branches. They were going to broadcast it to all their Church of Christ. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, yeah, that came downstream. She wanted to quit. And so, yeah, the elders came to her house to harass her and said, if you don't do it, we're going to do it for you. So because of the threat, she went and got an attorney. And here's what the attorney did. This is really important. In America, you have the freedom to join a religion, but you also have the freedom to resign from a religion.
Right.
And this is the most important legal point. consent belongs to you, the individual. So when you join a church, whether it's Scientology or the Church of Christ or any other church, you give your consent to be governed by their ecclesiastical laws and discipline. Now that puts you under their governance. Now, when you resign from a church, you withdraw your consent because it belongs to you, and you cannot be. They cannot impose their rules on you. So this is important in how to escape the Scientology trap. And this, I'm going to go somewhere with this. And so Marion Gwynn, consultant attorney, he wrote a letter of resignation. Marion Gwynn resigns from the Church of Christ. She withdraws her consent to be governed by your ecclesiastical laws and discipline. Okay, now, the minute she quit, they no longer had any authority over her. And what happened is the Church of Christ said, oh no, you don't get to quit the church. Our doctrine says you can never resign from the Church of Christ. Well, that's where church doctrine ends and U.S. law takes over. So they broadly told 4 congregations that Marion Gwynn had engaged in adultery and she was to be shunned. And so basically, at that point, because she had resigned from the church, she sued them for invasion of privacy and other charges. And this is a famous case, and I'll post the link. It's called Gwynn, Guinn versus Church of Christ, Collinsville. And it was decided by the Oklahoma Supreme Court. They ruled that as long as she was under their governance, they could do anything they wanted. But the minute she resigned, it became a tort. That means a lawsuit. So she won in court. So
Megabucks.
Yeah.
Six figures, high 6 figures.
Yes. The point here is that if the court ruled she made a positive act. So what I've always urged people to do is to formally resign from the Church of Scientology. Write a letter to the IES, which is the membership organization, saying I formally resign from the International Association of Scientologists. I withdraw my consent to be governed by the ecclesiastical laws and rules. Resign from the Church of Scientology International. Say the same thing. I withdraw my consent to be governed. Now, once you do that, and this is one of my suspicions, I could be wrong, appreciate any comments. The church doesn't like, my suspicion is the church wants ambiguity. Church of Scientology wants ambiguity. They don't want to give you an SP declare because if you don't resign, you have to commit a positive act by resigning. If you don't do it and they don't declare you, then technically in court, you haven't resigned and they can still argue that you were under their laws. So that's why it's so important to resign formally from the Church of Scientology. That way, all acts fair game actually becomes something you can sue over. Invasion of privacy, harassment, stalking, because you don't agree to be governed by their rules. So I think one thing the church does when you show up, the first thing they're going to show you the film orientation, Mitch, which you made, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. When you made your orientation film, what went with it was a contract. They make you watch that film, and then you sign a contract saying, I've seen the orientation film, and I agree that Scientology is a religion.
Yeah, if I could just make one little comment to back up what you're saying, Jeffrey, is in the actual treatment, orientation wasn't a script, it was a treatment. And then I finished it, and then I kind of finished it with David Miscavige, filled in all the blanks. He very clearly states at the beginning of that treatment that orientation has 2 purposes. The first purpose is to forestall litigation. Now, that's not anywhere in the film, but it says to forestall litigation so that nobody can go to court and say, I didn't know what I was getting into, because this film will clearly demonstrate that Scientology is a religion, right? And then, of course, the second thing was, and to help them get around the organization so they'll know where to go and, understand how we talk and so forth. But this is an overtly stated on paper that the purpose of this, and of course, then that was the first instance of having to sign a contract, and then of course that turned out not to be enough, so they added, I think, 3 more contracts to it. But
Yes.
Well, they do. There's 3 more. Mitch, this is one of the most important things that's ever been said on SPTV. is that if you write out an affidavit with an attorney saying that the purpose of the orientation film was to forestall litigation, that shows intent.
Yeah, well,
Because the
Jeffrey,
other-
I'd saved that information for my book, which will be out in a few weeks, but I thought,
But
why not share it here? So-
Well, no, over and aside from your book, I'm saying you should make an affidavit to help us. It's just on file. But that shows intent. So they want to
yeah.
drag you behind their First Amendment religious protections.
yeah.
And then what they do, Scientology claims it's about freedom, but after you see orientation, then you sign a contract agreeing never to sue them.
Right.
You or your
Right.
estate heirs, agents assigned, you will never sue them. You agree
Right.
to go into binding arbitration. The kidnap contract agrees that if a case supervisor declares you type 3, you can be taken into the introspection rundown like Lisa McPherson. The other contract, you agree that your folders belong to the Church of Scientology and you're never allowed to see them. So this is when they take you and they strip you through contracts of your legal and civil rights. And that film, I'd never heard that, Mitch. That's really important that it was deliberately constructed to forestall litigation.
It's amazing. I thought it was just common knowledge, but thinking about it, it's not. I mean, I'd never heard the term forestall litigation. There was so much written about this idea of what you do to forestall litigation.
Yes.
There was a number of things, and one of them is, let's make a film, get people to look at it, and we'll have God and a monkey, and we'll explain why, Scientology is a religion, and then we'll have a section that originally what he wrote in the treatment was we'll bring in legal scholars, and religious scholars who have nothing to do with Scientology. We'll bring them in, and in the film, they'll be interviewed, and they'll talk about how Scientology is a legitimate religion. Then, before we ever made the film, they won tax exemption from the IRS, so there was no longer a need to have the religious scholars because the IRS said they're a religion. So rather than film the scholars, we created visual material to support the religious decisions by the IRS and by some other countries, because there were a few countries. And that's why it detailed the whole Interpol thing, because Miscavige pulled off this little information coup, where as soon as he had the IRS mandate that it was a religion in his hand, his greasy
Okay,
little-
Mitch, even the IRS are not authorized to say what is a religion and what.
No,
There's no
but
theologists.
you're
They
right.
got
You're 100%
religious
right.
tax exemption is
Right,
different
but-
than alleging that they're a
Right,
religion.
right, but you
They
see,
didn't say that.
but that's a very strong implication. You're right. It doesn't explicitly say it. But if I say, hey, I have religious tax exemption, I don't have to say I'm a religion. I have religious tax exemption. It's implied. So that implication was strong enough for then Miscavige to send a copy of the book, What is Scientology, which he had specifically produced for this purpose, and he sent it to every Interpol office in Europe. Okay, everybody in Interpol got it, and it was like, dear Interpol, we have just received religious tax exemption from the IRS in the United States of America, which you don't have to say the biggest economy in the world because everybody knows it. And here's a book that says what we are, and anything else you've heard is a lie. That's basically why that book was produced. Of course, that book also said that Scientologists don't commit crimes. So,
Yeah, Jeff.
And to Karen's point,
You can get IRS tax exemption for being the Church of Marijuana Smoking. The way the
Yeah.
IRS ought to, you don't have to.
right. Well, I mean,
You
but
know-
good luck keeping it. You can get it, but then you also have to hang on to it.
The one thing that I want to throw in on the SB declare is there's a hook there. Right at the bottom, it says, your terminal is the IJC,
Right.
your only terminal. And then you have to do A to E. They're still acting like they're an authority over you.
Right.
See, you haven't resigned. So they're now saying your next step is A to E. And who you'll work with in A to E is the International Justice Chief.
Right. I was just going to say IJC stands for International Justice Chief, and A to E are the steps that Hubbard wrote that that you can do in order to get your suppressive person declared lifted. And it's a bunch of steps, including paying off debts and a bunch of stuff. But anyway, I wanted to mention one other thing too that somebody commented on here. And it actually came up in 1983 when Hubbard was still in hiding, right? I was at the Gold Base up at Gilman Hot Springs. Anyway, if an order came down that if anybody blew or left the international base, they were to be declared a suppressive person. Just that was it, right?
Yep.
Well, a bunch of people did leave, and they were leaving and all that. So he wrote a dispatch saying that he came up with a term which is everybody knows in the Catholic religion called excommunication. Okay, because excommunication is this person here writes this comment here, a name. It's excommunication, which was a death sentence in the old Catholic Church because no good Catholic could help you without risking excommunication themselves. And in the Catholic Church, excommunication means you can no longer take communion. You can, and basically it's their form of punishment. And back in for years and years and years, if you're a true believer in the Catholic religion, you don't want to be excommunicated. Okay. Well, it's the same thing in Scientology. You don't want to be declared a suppressive person. So what does Hubbard come up with? Because people are going like, I'll go ahead and get declared. I'll do my A to E and I'll come back. Oh, he comes up with excommunication. And his definition of excommunication is not only you're declared a suppressive this lifetime, but for all subsequent lifetimes. You know what I mean? Which in his mind is billions and billions of years.
Yeah.
And I mention this only because I actually considered that in 1983 when I was sent to the RPF because I disagreed with what Miscavige was doing, wiping out management and all that. I actually considered, well, maybe I'll just leave and they'll just declare me a suppressive person. But then this excommunication king came out, and because I was a true believer in Scientology, I went, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? I'd rather stick it out, and that's how crazy the prison of belief is, because I thought, they'll get me forever and I'm not going to do that. So anyway, I wanted to mention that came up later.
Yeah, Mark, let me, another comment back to what Karen was saying. IRS tax exemption, they don't say you're a religion. All they determine is that you're organized for religious purposes.
Right.
A point I've often made is that Jim Jones and the People's Temple had an IRS tax exemption. They were recognized as being organized for religious purposes, even though that led to 900 plus people committing suicide or being murdered in Guyana. The Fred Phelps Westboro Baptist Church, they protested with a sign that said God hates gay people. They used the F word. They were organized for religious purposes. So to make something very clear to Scientology, because they're knuckleheads about this, an IRS tax exemption is not a good housekeeping seal of approval where we think you're a good religion. It makes no comment on the merits of whether a church is evil, as the People's Temple was, or David Koresh's group was, had tax exemption. So all these horrific religious groups can have tax exemption. So it's merely your form of organization. That means you have a form of worship, and you meet a test. So you're right. Scientology tries to say the U.S. government sees us as a religion. No, they only see you as an organization. I want to return back to the idea. I think Scientology wants to keep SP declares off the radar to keep a certain amount of ambiguity, because I've interviewed so many former members who don't know if they're declared or not, have never seen their declares, and I think the church wants it that way. So if they go into court, they'll say they never resigned, we never declared them. If push came to shove, if they ever got past arbitration. So
ahead,
it's
Mitch.
an interesting
sorry.
thing. The church likes ambiguity. They don't want you to know where you stand unless and until they decide there's a lawsuit or a complaint, and then they want to force you into arbitration. That's one of my suspicions. They're not going to show their hand.
Well,
Mitch, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I'm opening up my word processor right now, and I'm going to start writing my resignation.
It's a good idea.
I never
It's a
resigned.
good idea.
I mean, I never resigned, Jeffrey.
Well, then
Well, and
you're
Mitch, have you ever received a suppressive person declare?
No, I received a really nasty letter from,
Right.
from Gold on their stationery from their, they're a backwater little address out in eastern Riverside. I mean, they didn't even bother to send it through the LA office. So,
but I
How
mean,
about you, Karen? Karen, did you ever get a suppressive person declare?
No, and I had to hunt for weeks and months. And I had a guy from the intelligence division of OSA Int who had been a good friend of mine. And he came and said, Karen, what you're doing is going to be irreversible. You're talking to Marty and Mike. That means you're going to be declared suppressive person unless you knock it off immediately. And of course, my reaction was, how do you know unless you're stealing phone records? Marty is in Texas. Mike Rinder is in Florida. And you come to my house telling me I'm talking to them back channels? And he was evasive. He said, well, we have PIs. And that. I said, how do you know that? And he said, Karen, this is your final warning. If you don't cease and desist you are connected to continued adherence to suppressives or a suppressive group is a category of declare, right? And of course, I wouldn't stop talking to Marty and Mike, but they wouldn't. No, to answer your question, no declare. So I hunted and finally someone told me that it was actually Jeannie Sonnenfeld or Jeannie Voigtvaart was called into an office and locked it and shown the declare and stuff like that. So I knew I had been declared. And then some other person sent me a Xerox copy of it. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, Jeff, I think that's a good point. That they want it to be ambiguous. They don't put it out there for many legal reasons as well as public relations reasons. But to be honest with you, I could care less about my suppressive person declared. Do you know what I mean? That's what's so funny is that Scientology wants to label people. Okay, they do it in Scientology, and they like to label you, and it's a form of control. They're trying to control you and control the people around you that you interact with. And suppress SP declare actually means nothing in the real world. They can't enforce it. You know what I mean?
But the important thing is, if you don't have one, and you've never formally resigned, you should. I'm going to read.
No, I totally agree with you on that. But I'm just saying that this whole thing about SP declare, whatever, it's just Scientology trying to control the person, and control the narrative.
Yeah, I have a different take on it, Mark.
Okay.
Per policy, they have to give you your SP declare. So what my strategy would be to demand your SP declare saying you're violating L. Ron Hubbard policy by not giving me my declare. So first you note that they're not, put it in writing that they're not in compliance. I think if there was a mass campaign by all former members of Church Scientology to demand a written copy of their SP declare per LRH policy, that would have an impact. We want it in writing, or you're not even following. That could become important in court later on if there was a lawsuit or in a matter of arbitration. They never gave me my declare. They're not even following their own rules, and yet they're expecting me to go into arbitration. So I would want to box them in that way. So I think everyone who doesn't have it should write a letter or have an attorney write a letter demanding a written copy. And you could CC it to the Religious Technology Center and David Miscavige, the purported ecclesiastical leader and chief bedwetter. I'm sorry, I had to get that in. But I think if you demand your SP declare, for them not to give it shows they're not even complying with their own rules. So that could become important. I'm going to read a section of what the court wrote within the Gwynn case. It says, quote, just as freedom to worship is protected by the First Amendment, so also is the liberty to recede from one's religious allegiance. And Torcasco versus Watkins, the court reaffirmed that neither a state nor the federal government can force or influence a person to go or to remain away from church against one's will or to profess a belief or disbelief in any religion. The First Amendment clearly safeguards the freedom to worship as well as the freedom not to worship. So in other words, the state can't do anything. They can't make you join a religion or leave it. You have to make the positive act yourself. So if you don't ask for an SP declare, the church is not going to give you one because it's to their legal advantage not to give you one and not know where you stand. That's why I think people should demand them. And if you get a tally, let's say if there's 1,200 people that demand them and don't get them, that's something you can give to the IRS exempt organization, the commissioner, and say, look, here's 1,200 people. The church will not give us our status. We have resigned. They have violated their policy. Please look into revocation. So you want to get every angle to the commissioner, IRS exempt organizations to show Oh,
I know that sound.
yeah. What?
That's my dog. Sorry,
I didn't know what that was. I thought it was the OSA bleeding onto our lines,
Could have
thinking
been.
like, what
Okay,
if
let me ask you this. If Mitch Brisker put in a formal resignation, just like you said, no longer under jurisdiction of any of the ecclesiastical religious doctrines,
yeah,
would he then be forced to go into the kangaroo court of internal arbitration? But he doesn't. If he's resigned from all of their doctrines, does he have to abide by internal arbitration? This is a thought experiment. We're just experimenting. There's no such thing as Mitch moving toward, but we're doing an thought experiment.
okay.
Let's say Mitch wrote a lovely resignation, which was clear as a bell.
Mhm.
He's not part of any of that at all. Could they force him into internal arbitration, which is one of their own policies, which he's no longer abides with, doesn't even believe in?
Well, to answer that, first of all, let me see. I'm not a lawyer. Okay, so, but I'll give you my opinion. If Mitch resigned, their ecclesiastical governance over him would cease immediately. But retroactively, the contract he signed when he was in would still apply. So, yes, they could force him into arbitration if he sued over a matter that occurred when he was still in.
Right.
But after he resigned, if they engaged in fair game harassment, stalking, he could sue them because he's no longer under it. So yeah, it's like if I bought a Lexus and sold it, or if I purchased a Lexus and financed it, I have a contract with Toyota for financing, and that's very much in effect. So it's the same kind of thing. Once you sign a contract, it's in effect, and then later on, if you leave the relationship, so let's say I pay off my Lexus, and then I find out there was fraud in the financing, I could go back and sue even though I no longer own the car. So that's where we need a lawyer. But technically, yeah, he would still be ordered into arbitration if he sued over services he took or he wanted money back. Mr. Fisher, you're muted.
Thank you. My dog's outside. I'm sitting here nice and calm, and oh, you're muted. Anyway, okay, but that would be for people who signed any kind of contract or any kind of agreement. Like I left in 1990, I never signed anything, And then we've got this long list, which I can show, of people that were declared as of 1992, and that wouldn't apply to any of them, right?
Well, again, I'm not a lawyer, but statute of limitations would probably come in effect unless it was a sexual kind of crime. I think stat lim.
Well, no, I meant in terms of like the arbitration policy. That's what I'm talking about. In other words, they couldn't hold somebody who resigned or left in 1992 without ever signing the arbitration agreement, right?
No, if you never signed it, they couldn't force you into arbitration.
Right.
No.
Right. Okay.
Just one short little anecdote before you start the list. Probably Mitch and possibly you, Mark. Do you remember an int landlord office the head of INT landlord office, Paul someone. Do you remember him? He was in 20 years. He was the head of the INT, all the properties that they buy.
That was after my time.
You mean when well, they used to call it the architect's office back then. I don't think they had a landlord office, but
okay. Well, there was this guy, Paul, I can't remember his last name, and he did some stories with Tony Ortega on the Tony Ortega blog. And what he did is
Paul Burkhart.
Paul Burkhart.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. He would go into INT-base, he would go into SP Hole, and there were all these declared SPs, and he would get them to sign off a multi-million-dollar, and this person, suppressive person, and they would sign the, and he would walk out of SP Hole. But he started thinking, this is a cuckoo's nest. So one day he walked into, what was the CMO Gold? No, not CMO Gold. The Qual building just before you went into CMO INT. What was the
spa?
big
They used to call it the spa.
Yeah,
the Qual
Del Sol.
Yeah. Del Sol was the office building.
Del
Yes,
Sol.
right.
He walked into Del Sol. He asked to see someone in Qual, and he said, "I'm leaving, and I don't believe in this anymore. I don't believe in the tech. I don't believe in the e-meter." And they said, "Well, you need to just do a leaving." No, I'm not going on the meter. I don't even believe it works. I think the whole thing is hogwash. And they let him walk out the door with no SV declare and no. He went even beyond saying, "I'm not in your jurisdiction." He said the whole thing is a complete scam. This is all on Tony Ortega's blog. He went in, he resigned verbally and said, "I don't even believe in your doctrine and your e-meter. The whole thing is hogwash." He used different language. And they let him go. He walked out the door. Yeah. With no SP declare. Well, he wouldn't believe the SP declares. He didn't believe in any of it.
Right. Crazy.
Well, I was going to show a couple of things here, Karen. The first thing is something that you sent to us, and I wanted to show, and that's that I'm going to show this a little out of sequence, right? This is the list of all the people declared as of 1992, and I'm going to start this up here. Hold on one second here. It's a video. Thank you, Mitch, for putting it together for us.
No problem.
But basically, this
Mitch.
is a list. It's 16 pages long. And Mitch, how long is this video? 20 minutes to scroll?
No, the slower one. Yeah, there's 20 minutes. I slowed it. I did it as fast as you could without still being able to read it. I did another one that was 10 minutes long. You couldn't even read it. It's insane.
Well, there's hundreds of groups and people that were all declared suppressive people. And this was put out in 1992 to all Scientology organizations and missions. And there are tons of these things.
Yeah, this is a purge.
So again,
this is like a Stalinist purge. This is like, these are all the people that are being sent off to, Siberia to like work in the gulag. It's just like, in Russia, you heard about in Soviet Union, you heard about they sent like millions of people. Well, this is Scientology's version of millions of people. We haven't even gotten to the actual
the names of the people yet.
Yeah, these are just the groups.
I am so glad we have Mitch's talents. Mitch, this was genius animating this because I've seen it. It's much better animating. I want to put this on my blog.
I don't know. It's my ADHD. I don't know any other way to do it.
No, it's brilliant. Like
very well done.
Yeah,
very
thank you. I just got a commendation from one of the only LRH trained Class 12 auditors ever. That means a lot. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah. Look at they put all these groups they declared suppressive.
Yeah.
If I wanted to be on the Galactic Patrol with Captain Bill.
Now, isn't that Captain Bill? Wasn't that Captain Bill, the Galactic Patrol?
Yeah, it's funny on Captain Bill. He used to, when he was in the church in good standing, he used to station guards on top of Big Blue, Pac Base, at night to watch for the Marcab ships in case they came to invade and steal all the OT materials from the org. No, it wasn't. It was like Ron was all aboard. Like, Bill, the Marcabs could come in and steal the advanced materials.
Well, he also used to have Sea Org members dress up in in black ninja outfits and
I'm
go to
forwarding
different
this a little bit. Here, now we got
psychiatric.
names.
Yeah.
Now we have
Oh,
names.
wow.
Oh, there's Vicky Asner. There's
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, no, I wouldn't be on this if it was 1992. Oh, yeah, I would. 92, I
Yeah,
would.
yeah, you would.
Because I
Let's
was
see if
declared
you're on it.
1990. Absolutely. These are all
You had
people
to
that were
eye on it for a long
Scientologists.
time.
This is the 2.5 percenters, people, that Hubbard
yeah,
said, you know.
as of
And guess what?
92. So
Yeah.
you can only
No.
imagine.
The list is infinitely longer now. Look at that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Now for SPTV, this is just great, Mitch. They have that thing, Shattering Suppression.
Right.
And
The course.
for them to publish this.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Or only on the letter B. And this is
Oh, yeah, it
1990.
goes on.
I would
Goes
guess
on.
that this list has doubled in numerical quantity from 1992 to 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anyway,
This
this is the one list I wanted to show. Then I wanted to show
Okay.
another one here. Hold on, let me check. Switch this. Share this tab instead. Okay, so this is there's a L. Ron Hubbard's birthday game. He always bragged about Old St. Hill and how Old St. Hill was the size that an ideal organization would be. Because in the 1960s, when L. Ron Hubbard was the executive director of Scientology and St. Hill, it was an ideal org. It was huge. They had tons of staff and all that sort of stuff. Well,
Right.
This is a list of all of the staff that were part of Old St. Hill that have been declared suppressive people, including Ken
Wow.
Urquhart, Leon Steinberg, Pat Bloomberg, all these different people
So-
here. John McMaster, the first clear ever produced, Tony Dunleavy, all these people here were all declared suppressive people. Brian Livingston, Brian,
Yeah, class 12.
Robin,
Mhm.
Robin
Yeah,
Lindsell,
class 12.
Philip Carino,
Otto Roos.
Otto Roos, Herbie Parkhouse was part of the GO, Virginia Downsboro. Anyway, so these people were all declared suppressive people by Scientology.
Yeah, it's amazing
you know?
because every March 13th when they or whatever the date is when they celebrate the birth of Hubbard, they celebrate the birthday game and it's a big deal. I mean, it's like it's one of the biggest events in all of Scientology on the calendar, and essentially people are told, if you can replicate what St. Hill did, then you'll get a big award. If you can replicate their expansion. And essentially, it was expansion that was led by a bunch of people who have been declared suppressive. It's amazing. Like, that is just mind-blowing to me.
And Mark, I wanted to say that your colleague, Janice Gillum-Grady, our dear friend,
Yeah.
she points out often that the old St. Hill expansion was led by her father, Peter Gillum, when Scientology was outlawed in Victoria, Australia. He brought in a huge wave of people migrated to St. Hill.
Right.
So it was really Peter Gillum leading the boom. It wasn't Ron. May I share something since we're sharing things?
Sure.
Okay, I want to share the screen and
Can you do it?
Yeah, I want to show you. Yes, I can. I just have to work around. Hold on a minute. Okay, share. Okay, now let me put this on. I'm going to show you some of the stuff I look at. And can you see that, Mark?
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait, hold on. Should I add to stage? Hold on.
Yes.
No,
yes,
that's not it.
Yes.
No, that's the St. Hill one.
This is called this you'll see it as the church discipline. Let me see if I can. It's like it has an orange stripe.
No, I don't. Oh, here it is. Here it is. It was down below. I just had to scroll down. Sorry about that. There it is.
These are the kinds of things I read, and my dear wife is so she lets me. I will be reading the church discipline blog. Now, this is interesting because this covers the Marianne Gwynn case, and what I've highlighted, it says this bears repeating. Once a withdrawal, that means you leaving a church, has occurred, the First Amendment protections don't belong to the church, rather they belong to the individual. this is important, quote, all religious activity in the United States is consensual. A person who publicly claims to be a member of the church is legally, a person who publicly claims not to be a member of a church is legally not a member of that church, and church discipline cannot continue without consent. A church attempting to discipline a person that has withdrawn can be found to be engaging in a form of harassment. In Marianne Gwynn's case, she was awarded $390,000, which was 6 times the annual budget of the church. So basically, this is, I do a lot of research for my blog. This church discipline blog is really interesting. I'll stop sharing it.
And
But
that's from the case, right? The Mary Gwynn case that you just read from, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so any attorneys out there, you want to look at and I'll put it in the show notes link, the Marianne Gwynn versus Church of Christ Collinsville. But the point is, religious activity is consensual. You own the consent, and you agree to participate with the church. Once you leave, it stops. So again, we go back to, whenever Scientology does something legally, they do it on purpose. They didn't forget to give SP declares. You can say that they don't want to give them out because they're embarrassing online, but I think there's a deeper motive, and not because one of the rules in law is you never give the other side any advantage. That's why you have to often, in discovery, you have to compel discovery because the other side will not produce documents.
Yeah,
So in this case, there should be a move to compel the Church of Scientology. And if we need a lawyer or a class action, you compel them to produce your SP declare. So I think it's not trivial. I think it's a very important thing. And Mitch Brisker, when he resigns, it'd be interesting, Mitch, if you write your resignation and demand a written copy, and then we'll just monitor it on SPTV to see if they're in compliance. And we'll talk off air.
Right. So, Jeffrey, let me ask you, do I need to send certified? Do they need to sign for it?
They won't take certified.
How about she get it notarized at least? Get it notarized by a
Sure,
Republic. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get it notarized and send it to RTC, CSI. You could send it to Gold Base, Golden Era Productions, but especially the IAS, which is the membership organization.
Right, because I am at least a lifetime. Well, I'm more than a lifetime member.
And you would become a good test case to see if they're compliant. This is something we could cover on SPTV.
Yeah, let's do it. And I'll send them.
Yeah.
I'll send them my pin, my IAS pin. I'll send that back to them, and my card.
Yeah.
I'll send them the card and the pen, and I'll say, here, you can have this back.
Well, I would keep that as evidence that you were in at one time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like for this to happen, a lawyer would have to intervene and say to them, one of their lawyers, look, I advise you to stop sending these declares because because basically you're promoting people to be legally recognized as being outside of your purview, and you're going to be you want to have them within your purview. I only say this because I remember I knew Bill Drescher pretty well. I got to know him pretty well because he was, a very important at one time church attorney.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys know who he was. He worked for the church for years. He happened to handle my divorce, which is how I got to know him. And he was a very nice guy. He passed away some years ago. And I was talking to Bill one day, and the church used to get really involved, at the retail level, what I call retail Scientology, which is the street level stores, the one where they have organizations, the one where they have the cash registers and the credit card machines, and they take the money, the retail Scientology, right? And they used to get involved, like, if a couple wanted to get a divorce, and it was completely amicable, like both parties were like, we're done, let's do it, no problem. But if one of them put up a fuss, the other one would often go in to see the chaplain. And then very often the chaplain would say, well, you can't file a legal case against another Scientologist. And so they get tangled up in this divorce thing, right? Bill Drescher wrote a policy for them. He said, no more. He said, no more. You can offer them a marriage counseling, which is not intended to keep them together. The purpose of that is to put them in good communication, but you cannot intervene anyway. So I wonder, thinking of that, was it like a Bill Drescher kind of guy who was like, you know what, you got to stop sending these declares out? Because it seemed to happen pretty suddenly, like all of a sudden,
Yeah.
You know, right around when Mike and Marty and all those, like none of them got, like Mike's not declared, right?
Oh,
Mitch,
he's
I think-
And,
red. He just doesn't,
Yeah.
no one has.
well,
the
I like
visual-
Mark Headley. Mark Headley has a declare from 2006. So it would have been, after that time period. At
Yeah,
least.
but I'm
How about
saying-
Leah? Does Leah, Jeff, do you know if Leah Remini, is she got a declare?
I don't know if she has a copy, but I think Mitch is onto something. It's what I suspected a long time. Look, I've worked with enough lawyers. This is something Scientology is good at. You can let SPs have the wrong perception or a misconception, misapprehension.
Right.
If I were a Scientology lawyer, and I'm not a lawyer, but if I were a cynical lawyer, I would say, let them laugh and say that the church is embarrassed to let SP declares go online. The real fact is I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to issue them because you haven't technically resigned. So technically we can still argue you're under our governance because you haven't performed a positive act of resignation. So in law, ignorance is no excuse.
Right.
That's why we at SPT are trying to educate you, write a formal resignation, demand to declare. Don't play the lawyer's game because it's easy for the church to let people laugh at them, but they get to keep the power. So it's nothing to them if laughing that they don't publish declares because they're embarrassing. But the real fact is they want the power. So I suspect, Mitch, you're exactly correct. One of the lawyers said, no, just let them have the wrong idea. Because if your enemy is making a mistake, as Napoleon, I believe it said, you don't interrupt them while they're making a mistake. So you let it go on, and it all works in your favor.
Right.
So this is why you become our test case, Mitch.
Well, I'm definitely
Yeah.
going to be writing that letter, and then I'll announce it and I'll post it on my channel as like maybe we could you could help we could kind of get together.
Yeah,
and
get a lawyer.
and craft. Yeah. And maybe we could craft the. I should work out crafting lawyer. However I do it, lawyer is of course the best way, and make this kind of the template that
Sure.
then anybody could then copy and send it in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Mitch, I think if we created a template letter demanding RSP declare in writing, I could post it on my blog. Everyone could post on their blogs.
right.
We would call it BPI, right? Isn't that the word? Broad public, or what's it called? Broad public.
Issue.
Information
Yeah.
or broad
Issue.
public
It's
issue.
like
Yeah,
issue.
broad public issue. Yeah.
We'd make it a broad public issue.
Wow, what
And
a great idea.
Yeah. Hey, Mark. Sorry, Jeffrey. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that I think this is a project we should engage on. This is the value of SPTV is
Oh yeah. No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Definitely.
But,
I
and
mean,
then we'll get the form out widely for other people to use.
yeah. I'll just post it. I'll post a link. I'll put it on my whatever. Yeah. it'll
We'll
be
put it
great.
everywhere.
Hey, so hey, Mark, put your declare
Yeah.
up real quick. Can you put it up again? I just want
Yep.
to point something out, just for the people watching who don't know. If you look at the upper left, that's the routing of every document put out by the church or by Hubbard. Every official has what's called a routing, and that says first it gives whatever the reference is, like this is ethics order, blah blah blah, and then it says all orgs, all missions. One of the one of the bits of terminology would BPI, which meant broad public issue, which means it goes to all Scientologists. And SB declares were originally intended to be very broadly distributed. They were originally, the instruction was to post them on the public message board in the organization. And I can tell you, one day I was in the ethics HCO Gold on some business, and I went over to the public message board and I started leafing through all the findings of the ComEvs and I just leafing
Kind
through.
of like the post office with the wanted posters.
Yeah, because it's all supposed to be put up there. And, somebody came to get me and they were like, what are you doing? Like, hey, get away from there. Get away from there. Like they put it up because they're supposed to put it up, but they didn't want me looking at it. I got to tell you, that was the last time I saw a declare posted in HCO at Gold. And it was Michael Fairman actually who was the last one that I saw. And that was a long time ago.
Oh,
Somebody
his
made a comment
declare-
here, Jeff. Somebody made a comment here, Jeff. Oh, I did the
If you
wrong
post
one.
it-
I know I did. Yeah, Jeff, if you post it, please make an addendum that us never ends are included in the post.
Oh yeah, I'll
about
put it on my
resigning.
blog
Yeah.
so the entire public can see it. And
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
put it
put-
on all other blogs, all hailing frequencies,
Yeah, yeah.
all starships, planets, universes.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mama S.
Mr. Fisher, I have something to share. Could you please put it on? It's my blog.
Yeah, sure.
If you could put that
Yeah.
up, I want the audience to see this.
Yep, hold on.
And okay, now this is on the Scientology Money Project. Now look at this picture. This I got from a Scientology thing, but this was supposed to, and I'll post the link. And there's a potential legal, but look at that picture. There's this hard ass ethics, fake Navy,
Sea Org member.
fake Navy Sea Org
Cosplay, a
member.
little cosplay action.
Yeah, and you see the hapless public member who's been declared for whatever he did, and the Sea Org
Right.
member's holding the L. Ron Hubbard ethics book, and this poor hapless fellow has his SP declare like, your eternity is done.
Yeah,
You
you're
are
done.
screwed.
Well,
But-
I can
but
tell
the-
you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, what's the shot? Did
No, I
you-
was just going to say he's not being declared for the sweater because we know they love ugly sweaters. So we'll
Yeah,
have to
that's
figure
true.
something else out. I think that sweater looks like it's left over from We Stand Tall.
Yeah, that's what I was
He,
going to
he
say.
probably
That
got
was
it from
like
the
a Hermes.
costumes department.
Yeah, they grabbed the sweater Dave
I
wore.
don't recognize these people. When was this shot? Do you know?
You know, I have been around so long. I got it out of a magazine. It cracked me up because it's like, in one thing, it's funnier than hell. Like, oh,
Totally.
so if some guy in a fake Navy uniform gave me a goldenrod, I'd be like, well, get the fuck out of here.
Well, you just reminded me of a story of how it was done by Miscavige in 82, when they declared the mission holders up in San Francisco. Okay.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Dean Stokes and Kingsley Wimbush, they actually were in their Sea Org uniforms. They took the declare and they had one of their Sea Org knives and they pinned it into the wall of the conference room that they were meeting with all the mission holders to establish ethics presence.
That's a pretty badass move. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. Wow.
Mark, can
You know, when
put
you
that-
got nothing else, you take a knife and you pin your shit to the wall. I
yeah,
mean,
you stab it.
that's just how it works.
Mark, can
I've
you
said
put
this
that back
before.
up?
Yeah, sure.
I did a huge amount of Sea Org missions, and on an ethics mission, when you arrived and you saw the execs and you showed them your mission orders, you then took out a dagger from your uniform and you hurled it into the ceiling. And this electrified the execs in the room. This was in management. They meant
Intimidate.
business. Here's the dagger in the ceiling. But can I just throw in one thing, and I think, Mark, you were right on the nose on this. There is a paranoia against legal lawsuits. So now there's 1-inch thick documents to sign before you ever go into a real auditing session. I had a leak from someone. She was actually training to be a lawyer. She was in her 4th year. It's a 7-year to actually qualify as 7 years of training. She was in her 4th year of training. And then she joined the Sea Org. She was on the L's, she was recruited, and she was on the EPF. And then she studied the 1-inch thick documents, mostly that you could never sue them. You can't do this and you can't, but it's 1-inch thick now. And she looked at this and she said to me, Karen, there is no religion in the world that makes you sign 1-inch thick documents promising you will never do this and you will never do that and you will never. And she said, this is just paranoia. Long story short, she quit the EPF and she left. She thought because she left in such a loud manner that she would get a declare, but she was in training to be a lawyer, and they just totally forget. There was no nothing. There was no didn't have to pay. There was no freeloader for doing those EPF nothing. She was in training to be a lawyer, all forgiven. Bye-bye.
When she left, right?
Yeah. She
And
left.
did she continue on as an attorney? Did
Oh
she
yeah,
pursue
she's
that path?
fully fledged. Oh,
Well, she
she's.
sounds like the perfect person to help me write this letter.
I'll
Yeah.
see if I can hook you up. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Jeff, what
Yeah.
did you want to point out on this?
Well, what's important, and one reason I want to collect as many SP declares as possible is I was researching them. This is a 2021 article, and I got a SP declare. Look, in Google Images, they used to be available, but Scientology's been nuking Google Images. Now, I found an SP declare of Dave Soroka and Nora Kirsten. This language is important, and I want to see if it occurs elsewhere. This is important for the audience. Help me. Any certificates or awards Dave or Nora may have been issued are hereby canceled. Any licenses or agreements that they may have acquired to use any of the trademarks or service marks of Dynex or Scientology are also canceled. And any membership agreements that Dave and or Nora may have signed with any Church of Scientology are also canceled. Now, get this. If we could get SP declares that say membership contracts are canceled, that would void the arbitration provision, in my opinion.
Right.
So that's why if we can do a massive campaign and we can void arbitration agreements by finding it, because I found this recurring. Anon Sparrow, Bram Mandingo had the same language. So if we can find enough of these and find that you can void arbitration, then that's a way around it. Now, I've collected, Patty Pendas has the same statement, Mike Rogier. And so I collected these, and this is the kind of level of research and why we can get, like Graham Berry, who has extensive experience, would be very good to use.
Yeah.
He's a solid lawyer. So this is why I think it's important, because we may be able to avoid some arbitration. You can stop sharing that. Let me. Okay, so that's one reason I want to do this project of harvesting and gathering SP declares, because in the aggregate, you're going to have a lot of smart people and lawyers find stuff in there, but you can also publish it on a Scientology money project type of thing, maybe called SP Declare Project, and compile them. And then statistically, you can analyze them. What are the main reasons for which people have been declared in the last 15 years, prior 15 years? Because before the rise of the internet, they would declare people for what? Swirling, Karen? I mean, what were the main reasons before the internet, Karen? Why were people being declared?
Not handling their in basket, apparently.
Well, no, I mean, Karen,
Mostly,
back in the 90s, why?
you were hobnobbing with others they were your good friends, but they were now declared SP.
My father was declared in 1979 for closing a Scientology mission. Not just him, the whole mission decided that they didn't want to be part of Scientology anymore. So everybody got declared.
But from a tech viewpoint, let me tell you what I just saw. Everything Scientology sells you is only leased to you because they can cancel. You can buy an OT package, you can endure going through everything, but they can cancel it. So therefore, you never really had it or owned it because it can be canceled in a New York second. Therefore, that title, OT3, whatever, was only on lease to you.
Yeah, it's like
And
being.
Regis don't tell you that.
It's like being a capitalist in Red China. You do it at the at the discretion of the communist leaders. They'll let you be a capitalist until they decide, you know what, we're taking all your shit. You're not a capitalist anymore.
I have a question now. Sure. Are there any other points on the SP declares that Jeff or you guys want to make? Because I'd like to ask another question, if you will indulge me, on a slightly separate subject.
Well,
but I want to make sure that we covered everything. Go ahead, Mitch.
Before we move on, I just want to make a comment before I forget that apparently this meeting, this summit that's taking place here right now, out of it we have two projects. We have the the gathering of the SP Declare project, and we have the resignation project. So this has been a pretty productive little meeting. We should have done it.
What you suggest, Jeff, is an excellent suggestion.
Next time we should meet at a bar that has good Wi-Fi.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And
We'll
Jeff,
get
do you
a-
have any other point on
we'll
that?
get
Because
a
I want to
table.
change the subject. I want to ask you both a question, but it's on a different subject.
Well, I just wanted to say this. When you consider as a spiritual person, this is my perspective, the idea that any religious corporation that's based in America can control your access to eternity is so stupid. The idea that a temporal, legal, religious corporation controls eternity. If you think about how stupid that is. Something I had when I went out to Gold Base with Liz Ferris to see if her father were dead or alive, Mitch.
Yeah.
I was leaving after we debriefed and had lunch. I was on the freeway and I saw the film Castle in the distance. I forget which freeway, but I saw the film studio in the distance.
Yeah, from the highway.
Yeah, and it looked so smallish. And it paled into insignificance as you drive by it. If you didn't know it was Scientology Film Studio, you wouldn't know what it was. You'd think it was a barn for horses.
Yeah, or else you might think it's maybe like a.
Industrial park.
No, that place in Orange County, the Knights.
Medieval times.
Medieval times. You think
Yeah,
it might be some
something like
backwater
that.
real medieval times because it has this faux castle thing going on. So
Well, my point is that eternity doesn't belong to the goddamn Church of Scientology.
No.
They don't own eternity. That is stupid. That is so. The idea that someone like David Miscavige controls access to eternity,
yeah,
he doesn't. The church doesn't. You have to believe it, and if you can break the spell and see that eternity has no reference to David Miscavige or Scientology, then that will shift your perspective. That's what
it's a pretty. I've described it as maybe the biggest con, the most successful con of the last 100 years, because you're getting people to pay money to replace their core identity with a fiction, and to do it gladly, and that's a pretty good con.
It is, and if you look at eternity as a spiritual concept, it does not contract with secular corporation or religious corporations to give exclusive access. The whole thing.
If you look at it just in terms of, and Jeffrey, if you look at it in terms of physics, if you just take an Einsteinian view of an immeasurable amount of time, that's going to happen, and you're going to participate in it, if in at least some part of it, regardless of what you believe in.
Yeah, and I made the point with Aaron that we have to mark it on, but basically, in order for incident 20T3 to happen, Xenu and his BTs, Xenu's DC-8 space planes would have had to exceed the speed of light. So the physics of it are, that's a whole different thing. I'll let you go.
But
Mark?
see, you're just confused, Jeffrey, because you're not taking into account the multiverse. You're thinking too much in one universe.
Yeah.
Like there's another universe where the DC-8s are like amazing. Like
I'm a big multiverse guy in Scientology.
okay, well you have to think
check before it.
multiverse. Okay.
Okay. So anyway,
I want to ask you both. I want to ask you all a question. Okay, this is something. Speaking of eternity, all right. I've been pontificating and thinking about this lately. I did a video a couple of weeks ago on this. Right, David Miscavige is 63 years old. I've had friends who are in the Sea Organization who have died at the age of 65 and 66, who are in relatively good health. Okay. Now, David
And he's a smoker with asthma.
Well, hold on. I'm just gonna run it down. Number one, he has asthma. He smoked 2 packs a day of unfiltered Camels when I worked for him, and I was going to ask you, Mitch, to fill in if that continued, because he not only did that,
absolutely.
he used to chew tobacco, Skull Bandits. He had them in his. He had a spittoon. This is early in the 80s. Now I don't remember him continuing doing that, but he did it for a long
disgusting.
time. Then he got into smoking cigars with Tom Cruise right before I left. Right, and then I've heard that he drinks scotch, that Tom DeVox said sometimes a bottle a night, right? And then also I've heard from Mark Headley that he takes human growth hormone, or he did for a time being, Okay.
Yeah, and he also
Question, Mike-
he also sleeps in one of those bariatric chambers.
Oh,
I
does
think
he? That was what I was going to ask
Really?
you. What?
Yeah,
Michael
Like
Jackson.
Michael
thing?
Jackson?
yeah, he's got one of those. But they have two of them at gold. They bought two of them. They have a gold, and they use them to treat. They use them. The last time I ran into Heber Judge, it's like, okay, I was in all kinds of trouble. I got sent back to gold, and I was trying to figure a way to get the hell out of there, and maintain my finances and my dignity, and I was not able to do that. But anyway, that's another story. So they said, because I was having some physical difficulties or whatever, that in the morning, instead of going to course, I could go, or for an hour, I could go to the MLO space, which they set up in the apartment
Medical
building.
liaison office.
Yeah, the quote unquote quack medical people. Yeah, your dog totally agrees, 100%. So okay, so you can go down. They set up two of these bariatric things in the apartments, right? The medical people had taken over part of it, and so I could go to. And they kept saying, you should do this. It'll be really good for you. I wouldn't do it because I just didn't like laying in it. But I would go down there and I would lay for an hour. It was just I could get more sleep. I'd go and I'd lay on this thing that was some kind of a magnet, like a pad, and you would just lay on it. And all of this stuff, like it all filters through Miscavige. Like it's all okay with him. It's all stuff that he does. And he probably, the last time I saw Heber, I'll never forget. I loved Heber. He was such a dear man. And I tell the story in my book about when I first met him at Celebrity Center and when he was with the fund. And he always had this sparkle in his eye, and he had this way of greeting you. And he was 80 years old, and he was being helped. He had a walker. He was very feeble. And he was coming into the room that I was in because there was one of these bariatric chambers in there, right? It's like a coffin, right? You lay in it, and it has a plastic window. And he looked at me, and he had that same sparkle. I couldn't believe it. It was like the same guy, and I'll never forget it because that was literally the last time I saw. I'll tell you, the other thing they're really big into that Lou, Dave's girlfriend, used to tell me all the time. Like, I made a video about this juicer they gave me, right? This very expensive juicer, because he was like worried about my health. So he's really into fresh, cold press juicing. So he gave me this very expensive juicer. So I can't but think he's worried about his own health. But one of the things that Lou was always telling me to do was get colonics. I'm not feeling well. I think I'm coming down with something. Oh, you should go get a colonic. And they were really big into colonics. So
You got to be kidding me, Mitch.
no, this is
You're not. You're BSing us right now, aren't you? A bariatric chamber and colonics.
Oh no, I couldn't make this shit up. If I
What
was
else?
on-
What else was and human growth?
No,
hormone, right?
and
I know.
and,
I'm just kidding you, but I'm stunned.
Mark,
I'm
listen,
not,
don't,
I'm not at all.
listen, don't challenge my shit. I know I wasn't in the Sea Org, so therefore
No.
sometimes I get
I'm
some
teasing
shit.
you. I'm
I
teasing
know,
you, but
I
I'm
know,
literally,
I know.
you're blowing my mind. This is not something that
I don't know. I just never thought to talk about this, but it's like,
Mitch, can I add to Mitch's crazy? No, I get on the bariatric chambers. I've heard that before, right? Getting the colonics I had, and that's new. But
Yeah.
there was a book Jim Marrs wrote called The Alien Agenda, 2007.
yeah,
And it was about how the alien shape-shifting reptilians are taking over the government and the planet.
yeah.
And David Miscavige, this is what Marty Rothman told me. He said that David Miscavige, that was his favorite book, and he was ordering everyone on the base to read it.
Whoa.
Now, later at the end of his life,
What year was that? Do you know what year that was?
2007, if I recall.
Okay,
The
yeah,
Alien
that
Agenda,
kind of rings a bell.
Jim Marrs. And
Yeah.
it made quite a sensation. But at the end of his life, Jim Marrs needed money, and so David Miscavige hired him to show up at Writers of the Future to kind of hang
Really?
around. Yeah. So I could see okay, I'm David Miscavige. I wake up with a hangover from McAllen. I'm coughing. I got my morning cigarette. Then go into the bariatric chamber, which you can't smoke while you're in it. So I guess you an IV scotch if you're a morning drinker. Yeah. So this is why I want to make a film about it, because this is real life. And I tell people sometimes like Mitch said, you can't make this shit up.
No, the
No,
other
so
thing
well, I still haven't gotten to my question. All
I
was
know,
trying to
Mark.
do
Mark,
was try to show.
Mark, you have a
Okay,
question.
One more
on
thing, though.
Miscavige.
One more thing is
Okay.
that the other one was this red LED light therapy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they did. They were really into that, and I know for a fact they couldn't have been doing those things or ever gotten the money authorized because a lot of this stuff is very expensive.
Somebody says it's a hyperbaric chamber, not
yeah,
a bariatric.
hyperbaric. That's what
Oh,
I
I'm
meant.
sorry,
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Bev's playlist. Hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah, not bariatric. Well, I don't know what the hell bariatric is.
I don't know. Yeah, I knew. I
So
meant
David
hyperbaric
Miscavige was
stuff.
sleeping
Yeah,
in a
okay.
hyperbaric
Well, if
chamber,
he's
the
not
same like
sleeping in
Michael
it, he's
Jackson.
spending a couple of hours
Right
in it a day, right?
That's crazy.
Okay, so
All right, now here's my question. Okay, so you filled in more. That's why I wanted to ask you, Mitch, because I knew you've been around him a lot longer than I was. Right?
Yeah.
This is all pre 1990 that I'm telling you, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about
It is afterwards,
2017.
Well, he's 63 years old, and he's
Yeah.
abused his body for years. Okay, even if
Yeah,
he's done these other things.
I'm 10
he's
years
abused
older than
his
him, and
body.
I don't think I look older than him.
No, and here's the thing. He's under tremendous stress, no matter what anybody thinks.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He blows a stack. He's a type A personality, right? And all that sort of stuff. He's living in a cocoon. He cannot go out without security around him because he'll be served, right? And so how much longer do you think he actually can living like that? Number one. And number two is, I don't see him grooming anybody to take over. I mean, if they do, they're hidden somewhere. Plus, I think he would tear up anybody that he decided would be the person to take over. I mean, he's 63. How much longer can he actually live and be in control? That's my question.
Okay. Well, I don't know. It's like maybe he's made a deal with the devil. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe, who knows? I mean, maybe
We're talking
he's
about eternal life. No, I'm just saying he
in reality.
gotta
No,
be
you're
near
right.
the end. I mean, look I'm 65. I'll be lucky. I'd be happy if I live another 10, 15 years, but that's going to go by like that, And does he have any plans, in terms of what's going to happen with Scientology when he goes? I doubt it,
Yeah. No, it's an interesting point. Okay. So listen, okay. Oh, I found it. Okay. This is, okay. So here, I want to share something with you.
When you get done, I want to speak to Mark's comment on the longevity of Mr. Miscavige.
Okay. This
So
is
do
just,
I. So do I.
I just want to have fun with this for a minute. Okay. So this will
Janice
just take
is in the house. Janice
So just take a second. If you're all seeing this.
Janice says, great discussion. DM
Yeah,
obviously
hey-
likes mixed practices.
Okay. So
Oh,
can
I
you
got
guys
it.
see
Wicked
this? Can you
comment.
guys see this?
No.
Okay.
Let me see. Hold on. No, I can't.
Okay. Can you see it?
Oh,
now?
wait. Here, now I
Yeah,
can. Hold
put it on.
Yeah.
Put it on.
There you go.
Okay, that's the one they have at Gold. They cost $23,000. They have two of them.
Wow.
They have two of this. It's a hyperbaric chamber. They have two of these, and this is the same one. I'm sure that Miscavige has one in LA, one in Flag, one on the ship, one everywhere he goes. He probably has one.
Mitch,
So
it says
anyway-
white glove delivery.
What's that? What does it
I
say?
like that.
Oh,
white glove delivery.
Yeah.
I like that it's the Vitarus 320. You know what I mean? It's like the 320. We should get the 660.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there was three. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because
That's
I
amazing.
noticed somebody in the chat said that they used these hyperbaric chambers for burn victims and they're not for the general public. But there is a company that they market all kinds of crazy medical devices that don't have to go under the scrutiny of the FDA. And suckers spend money.
Mitch, let me
Anyway,
add,
Jeff, go ahead,
when I
Jeff.
worked, when I was working as a lighting professional, I did work in part of my portfolio with photonics was phototherapy for psoriasis, vitiligo, rosacea skin
Right.
diseases, and I worked on photoselective signaling and all kinds of stuff. So I know a lot about red light therapy. It doesn't do what it says. I've read the claims. Grant Cardone got into selling it. And I would be glad to talk.
He probably sold it to Miscavige. That's how he
Probably.
I would be glad to talk to Grant Cardone's partner who originated stuff on the research and what it does. So that red light therapy, I'm willing to do a debate on that. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the red light therapy, Grant Cardone has glommed onto that, but I just wanted to add that. Okay. But great find. So on the longevity, Karen, of David Miscavige?
Yes. David Miscavige has pummeled, crushed, smashed, pulverized anyone who could threaten or be likely to challenge him.
They're an old
He-
folks home, and there's nobody young.
He has battered Mark Yeager. He has sent Mark Ingvar forever to SP Hole, not to mention what he did to Marty and Mike, and they fled. But he has made so sure that he doesn't have a rival or even a whiff of a competitor. So to answer you, Mark, has he groomed a replacement? Is he?
Well,
When
but
he
you know, the other day, Mark Headley and I, we did a story about the technical training film, E-meter film number 5, YTRs, about this kid. We pick him up at 15 years old. He's on another planet where there's no Scientology. And the film is basically saying, look, you need to know your Scientology so well because you might die and you might not come to another, you might wake up on another planet and you'll have to get Scientology going. So there's a lot of this kind of crazy magical thinking going on. And, you know, Miscavige could really be lost in this deception that Hubbard's going to come back. So, and then, you know, this 15-year-old kid would show up one day and he'd say, hey, this is the guy that's taking over for me. So, you know, you never know what is really going on in his mind. I mean,
That brings up a question, Mitch. You're the most recent person on this screen that has been with Miscavige not too long ago. Do you think he's a true believer? Does he really believe in what Scientology is promising?
Yeah, I do. But what you asked me, Mark, is a black and white question. People are not black and white. People are very.
I understand.
People are very complicated. I think there is a box. Everybody compartmentalizes. I don't care who you are. There's a box, and in that box, L. Ron Hubbard's coming back. Scientology is 100% the real deal, and you can't. I mean, at one point he told me, and this was years ago, that he 100% planned to be able to achieve a state where he could come back with full memory of his entire track. I mean, he and I believed it. I didn't think he was just gaslighting me into thinking that he was a true believer, because I already was a true believer, and he didn't have to tell me that, and he knew I didn't have to get convinced. But he definitely, to me, he 100% believed that he could achieve that state. Because, I mean, he used to say things to me like he used to say, hey, Mitch, do you have like a voice in your head when you think? And I said, yeah, sometimes I do, as a matter of fact, because I write. Sometimes I'll run scripts in my head. And he says, you know, I don't do that. I don't have a voice in my head. Now, there's a word for that. I forgot what it is. It's an inner dialogue. And it's actually, if you talk to a mental health professional, it's not a mark of anything. It means nothing if you have an inner dialogue or if you don't. It's just people have different ways of thinking. But he really thought that his lack of inner dialogue was somehow an indication that he was a very fast thinker. Like he didn't need to be slowed down by language inside of his head. And we had a lot of conversations about these kinds of things. So he's a very odd person. So you ask me, and he's also very sociopathic, psychopathic, narcissistic. And I don't mean, you know, the word narcissism today, it's replaced the word conceited. And unfortunately, it gets interchanged with the word conceited. I'm not talking about conceited. I'm talking about truly narcissistic. So you've got a lot going on there. So I think I'm sure he struggles with that. I mean, I think, and I'm going to do more on this later, but I think David Miscavige is like the mini Brigham Young of Scientology, because I think he's trying to establish a fortified position that is unremovable in Clearwater, which is what Brigham Young did. And they both trafficked Europeans illegally. They both messed with the First Amendment. They both tried to shut down, you know, Brigham Young had, you know, sent soldiers in to shut down printing presses. David Miscavige tried to censor the internet. You know, this is kind of out of the cult leader's playbook, but that's why I don't think he cares that the orgs are empty. I don't think he cares right now if Scientology is a real thing or not. I think what he cares about is what Brigham Young cared about, which was establishing such a fortified, you know, beachhead that it can never be taken away. And, you know, he did. Salt Lake City, the state of Utah. I mean, the crimes that they committed to pull that off. And they were being shot on sight. Scientology has it easy compared to the Mormons. And I think Miscavige, he thinks about Brigham Young. He thinks about that narrative about how the Mormons got
Interesting.
established. Yeah, because he said enough things to me over the years, not the least of which was sending us to BYU to check out BYU TV before we opened S&P.
Wow.
So we could go hang out with the Mormons for a day.
However,
Karen.
auditing is a central doctrine. And
Right.
for all reports, David Miscavige has not gone into Scientology doctrine sessions in 20, 30 years.
Yeah,
He has
that's-
Ray Midoff right under his thumb.
Yeah.
And Ray did Hubbard before he died.
Yeah.
So he's
My-
considered top notch.
Yeah,
It's
no, you're right,
hard
Karen.
for me to really believe that
It's a-
he's a true
Yeah,
believer.
My
you're right.
theory-
It's
Yeah.
very problematic. What you're saying is very problematic because 100% true. How could he be a true believer? But I think he's so unbelievably sociopathic narcissist that he believes that he's risen above it, and that he's not a Sea Org member, but he controls the Sea Org, but he's not in the Sea Org. He's not
My
assigned-
theory,
Yeah.
my theory, Mitch, is that he's going down the path of Hubbard. Okay, he's in hiding, just like Hubbard, except he's in palatial hiding, but he's in hiding. He can't go anywhere without security. He's under attack, rightfully so, with the lawsuits. If there's a grand jury that's really investigating obstruction of justice and other charges,
Right.
he may skip the country. I guarantee he's got money overseas somewhere,
Yeah,
and
he
I
has
guarantee
resources
he's
for
already
sure.
researched countries that have non-extradition treaties, because I know he's in it for himself. Number one, he's more important than anything else. That's my opinion. This is all my opinion, but
Right.
I think he's going to die alone. He doesn't have his wife. He doesn't really have real friends, and he's just gonna get crushed. The walls will close in to the point where he's just gone. He'll have a heart
Mark, I
attack
agree
or
with
some
you.
kind of medical breakdown.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I absolutely agree with that. One thing I just want to add before we turn it over to Jeffrey,
Yeah.
because of his outbursts, and I've seen them enough to know what he's capable of, although I am by far the most, the most frequent observer of that stuff, but I've definitely seen enough. There is a chance, meaning he never punched me, okay, but there is a chance that he's going to lose his shit and kill somebody, because once you go off on them, it's kind of hard to pull back. And that's the other possibility, because if he goes off on somebody on Western jurisdiction land, it's going to be really hard to dispose of a body, and especially one that's a murder of passion done in the moment. It's going to be really hard. So that is another possible scenario, is he goes down because he finally, his violence just got too out of hand. And he won't die alone. Lou will be there because she's so loyal to him.
Well, you may as well look at Hubbard died with Annie there. That was it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. I hear what you're saying. I mean, I don't disagree.
Go ahead,
with you.
Jeff.
I've always said that Miscavige will die like Hubbard in his own version of a medicated bluebird paradise,
Yeah.
and whatever that is altogether. But just going off topic as a big picture tech guy, given that the Scientology publics who are listening and the Sea Org listening, if Dave Miscavige is big into the hyperbaric chamber, the play here would be to take a $23,000 hyperbaric chamber, put a meter into it, an e-meter into it, sell it for $76,000 to Scientologists, and say that if you audit in a hyperbaric chamber, your gains will be 50 times.
Yeah,
greater.
magnified. Yeah.
Yeah, because the only thing that's missing if you could go into audit in your hyperbaric chamber to get maximal gains. But
Yeah.
seriously, Mitch, what you're relating, Miscavige talking about the alien agenda, that's his favorite book, hyperbaric chamber. That shows he's doing some life extension research. I suspect if he's really into it, he's getting stem cell
HGH.
injections.
Yeah,
Yeah,
could
stem
be.
cell
Could be.
injections are the big thing. And
Well, remember they had, what's his name, the Scientologist, stem
yeah,
cell guy. What's his
oh,
name?
yeah, the guy who used to be the
Fishback. Yeah, Fishback.
Yeah, Okeanos. Okeanos stem cell research. He left
the one that was
Bahamas.
owned. Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure he had access to that.
Well, he did, and then he left the Bahamas. He sold that under really murky conditions. So there was $12 million in dirty Iraqi money. It went into Okeanos, and he opened a new stem cell place.
Is there clean Iraqi
Texas.
money? I'm just asking. So,
No, not that I know, but I'm just saying that, yeah, he's probably looking at life extension technologies.
yeah.
And so
Why?
I think,
Why? If he's miserable, if he feels haunted, if he feels pursued, if he feels all these SPs, he can't trust anyone. Everyone is out to get him. He wants power.
He wants to.
He thinks he's important.
Yeah, because Hubbard wanted to permanently carve his name into history, and Miscavige wants to create that beachhead. He wants to create that permanent beachhead where Scientology will never go away. And
Mitch, next thing I'm expecting you to tell me is that he wants to freeze his head in a cryogenic chamber like Ted Williams did.
I never heard about that. I never heard about
And he wants to put it in the CST and have it in each one of the different vaults.
Yeah, exactly.
that would make sense, actually, Mark. Yeah,
there might be a cryo chamber in one of those. Who knows?
I probably right. No,
Anyway.
Karen, even if he were miserable, a lot of miserable people want to live forever to exert control, because once he drops the body, then the game's over. He has to reincarnate if he's,
Well, I'll tell you, he got enough narcissistic fuel out of that IS event to keep him going for a while. I didn't really know how he was going to survive on feeding off those little events in the ballroom at Flag, because I'm going to tell you, this guy is so addicted to that.
He needs the big applause, the big.
Yeah,
ovations.
I've like been with him hanging out. The last time I went to the IS event, I was really pissed off because I was just really relaxing and having a great time. And I had work to do. I was also working on these scripts in the Narconon program. And I get a call, and Lou or somebody says, hey, you need to come to the tent right now because COB is doing his dress rehearsal, and he wants everybody there. Like, he wanted all of me and whatever the other tools that are working for him. He wanted us all there, right? And I had to sit there and listen to this 3.5-hour speech. And then I had to go back that night in a tux and watch it again. And this is just like Chinese torture.
Mitch, you're so ungrateful for the privilege you had.
I'm not. I'm really not. The good parts of it I'm very grateful for. The dinner we had the next night with Tom Cruise and various other people. I'm very grateful for that. It was really terrific. But
unless somebody else says something else, somebody else has another point, I think we'll end it off here. And because we've been going for a while, hope everybody has enjoyed it. It's been a great conversation.
A lot of fun. Yeah, really
has.
And
I want
boomers rule. So.
I would like everyone to know, same time, same place, same hosts next Tuesday, 5 o'clock Los Angeles time, 8 o'clock East Coast time.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because we all have experience in different areas. Jeff, you're amazing in what you do, and Karen is too. Likewise. And all that, and also Mitch. So I think it's fun. We have different perspectives that we can. I learned a bunch of stuff today on the SP thing. I think what Mitch you've put forward about resigning. Officially, that makes a lot of sense.
We're going to do that. I'm going to do that.
And Mitch, let's talk back channel about how to get these projects kicked off.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do it.
See, if people can predict that it's every Tuesday, if there's a prediction day.
It's good. Plus, Jeffrey, a lot of us are doing this out of activism and passion, and it's starting to drift into like a lot of the stuff that you see it's starting to drift into just like the Oprah show. Anyway, so it's good. I think we really need to keep up that activism.
The focus on what the change, making change.
Yeah,
Karen.
So are we doing questions? What's happening?
Well, I don't see any questions, so
that's
we
because
can. But
we are so thorough in the way
we're OT. we just answer them all. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't really have any.
I use my Jedi mind powers to make sure we didn't need questions. Okay, great. So
let me do the business. Let me do business here now.
Go ahead, Mark.
So
go ahead.
Please subscribe to our channel, my channels, Mark Fisher and Janice Gillum Grady, our Scientology Stories Peeling the Onion. Please subscribe to Mitch's channel, Mitch Brisker, right? And
it's Scientology
Money Project, right, Jeff? Scientology Money Project. and Surviving Scientology is Karen's channel. But we would appreciate it if you guys, we don't just ask so that, because we want lots of subscribers for ourselves. It actually helps YouTube push it out to other people who have no idea. Maybe they were involved in other cults or other religions, and all of a sudden a video will pop up because it's something that they might be interested in. And we get new people and we get the word out. So it's really helpful if you do subscribe. So that's number one. I also wanted to mention too, if you have questions that we didn't, or if you're watching this on replay and you have questions, ask in the comment section down below. I check the comments all the time and the questions. So please, please, please ask. And, that's the business that I have. Does anybody have anything else they want to say?
Just one other quick thing, just a little self-serving promotion. I'll be back on at 8 on my channel with Sterling. We're going to talk about a very interesting subject, and so hopefully you guys will go grab a bite to eat and come back and watch that.
I will. I'm going to jump in my hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah, actually, you can watch it from in there, and you'll enjoy it 10 times
I have
more.
a flat panel in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to end off here, but stay in everybody don't hang up yet, because after we're done with the end of screen,
no
just so
problem.
we can talk off screen.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Anyway, we want to thank everybody for watching, and until next time, bye.
Yeah, I love you all.